WGNY and WJGK HD2, Newburgh, Middletown. WGNY News, Talk, Sports.
Football fans from around the nation, welcome back to another Sunday edition of Jake's Hot Takes. Today we got a great show for you coming up. We are talking about the divisional games that have already happened, talking about the divisional games that are soon to happen, and then we're having a couple discussions around the MVP discussion, around the Coach of the Year, and the value of a draft. I am your host, as always, Jake McVey. This is Jake's Hot Takes. I forgot to mention that. Matt, how are you doing today, my lovely co-host?
I'm doing amazing today. Good games yesterday.
Yeah, great games.
Yeah, very good games. Probably the best day of the NFL playoffs so far in terms of quality of the games. So
yeah, I'm inclined to
agree. A lot
agree.
to talk about today.
Yeah, certainly. And we are going to jump right into it, talking about, wow, a crazy upset. Lions. What happened? The Commanders come away with a big win on the road, on their way to an NFC championship. What did you see that you really liked out of that, Matt?
Jaden Daniels, 2 words, Jaden Daniels. He's already greatness. I mean, he's won 2 upset playoff games on the road already in his rookie season. It's amazing. And I'm going to say it, I think this Commanders team is going to the Super Bowl.
You think they're going to
the Super Bowl? I think they have a great chance to either beat the Rams or the Eagles, whoever wins today at 3 o'clock. This team just looks great. It's crazy how good their rebuild is. Dan Quinn is very aggressive on 4th down. It's worked out amazing for them this year. Cliff Kingsbury has drawn a very good offense. Their offensive line is playing great. Their receivers, what's crazy about their receivers is that they're all role players like De'Ami Brown. I mean, Terry McLaurin's great, but he's not like an S-tier guy.
I bet Terry's glad he stuck around, though. All those trade rumors, he stuck with it for Washington.
Olamide Zaccheaus, like these are all role players that are playing great with a rookie quarterback in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. So this team looks amazing right now, and there's no sign of them stopping. I mean, they beat what a lot of people were considering the best team in the league coming into the playoffs.
Yeah. And you know what? I am eating my words a little bit about Jaden Daniels. Last week I stated that he would not do well against this Lions defense, but man, he was just unstoppable. No wonder the Commanders go for it on 4th down every time. When you have a guy that can find the space between defenders and accelerate and move and be so agile on the move like Jaden Daniels is, he really is just next level. I was sitting there watching, and it was like every time he took the ball for a spin, my jaw was on the floor. He really impressed me. And, you know, I'm a guy that doesn't like to get excited about rookie quarterbacks really quickly, like after their first season.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty high on Stroud last season, but I also understood that going into this season, he's probably not going to be at an insane level yet, which I was right about. But Jaden Daniels, man, I think I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a Jaden Daniels MVP season in the next 3 years.
I think we will. I think his ceiling is immaculate. I think he's the next Lamar Jackson. He really looks the part. His running is very, and his game has so much time to grow from what he is right now. He's playing so well for a rookie, and I feel like next year Washington is just gonna get a good receiver for him, a good S-tier receiver for him. Their offensive line is playing great too.
Yeah,
a lot of good free agency signings on the offensive line this year.
Yeah, definitely. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler both looked great. They were great on the ground against a really stout Lions run defense.
Austin Eckler in the passing game too. So yeah, it looks great.
I mean, we got to talk about this Commanders defense because they were off the chart too. It was like every time the Lions were trying to hit their classic 1-2 punch of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, the Commanders' run defense was all over it, and they really kept Goff in check. I mean, Jared Goff looked like a pedestrian out there. And I was thinking about this. It was a little bit of a theory of mine. You remember that really big hit that Goff took on that one interception?
Yeah, I do.
I think he might have gotten a little bit of head damage there. Maybe not a concussion, but something went wrong. Something went wrong with Goff after that hit because it looked like for the rest of the game, not only was his passing ability off, it looked like the Lions didn't really trust him to throw the ball at all. I just remember towards the middle of the third quarter seeing them go for a run play on 3rd and 9, and I was like, why are they not trying to let Goff throw the ball right now?
Yeah.
So I question whether or not Jared Goff might have had like a mental thing going on, like he got the yips and he couldn't really do his usual passing thing, or whether or not he might have gotten some head damage. Maybe the brain got stirred up a little bit. But regardless, he did not look like the level that we anticipated him playing as. Jared Goff is usually a pretty good playoff performer, but he just was not. It was not it yesterday.
Yeah, Goff did not play too well. He threw for 313 yards, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions, one of them being the costly pick six.
Terrible.
That was a pretty bad play. He had Laporta way open, and he decided to force it to Gibbs, and it just did not pan out too well.
Yeah.
He had another play where he had Jameson Williams breaking out deep down the field, and he missed him wide. So just a lot of missed opportunities for Jared Goff, and just a bad performance from him all around, even though he threw for 313 yards.
Yeah, it doesn't mean a lot when you're only coming away with 1 passing touchdown,
But Jahmyr Gibbs performed amazingly. He had 105 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, 70 yards in through the air. So pretty good time. He also had two rushing touchdowns. So he had a good game. I think the biggest Jameson Williams played awful. Despite his 1 touchdown that he got, he played pretty terrible.
Yeah, but I'm not even surprised about that when it comes to Jameson Williams. He has always been an incredibly inconsistent player when it comes to that Lions offense. Like, sure, he's great for like a big explosive touchdown every now and then, but he's not the kind of guy that will be able to consistently grind down a defensive back like you see with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, you know, he can make like 8 or 9 catches in a game and really kind of put a defender on his heels. Jameson Williams, he's good for 1 big 60-yard reception and then maybe a few like 4 or 5-yard receptions here and there.
But really, the play that really sealed the game for the Commanders was the interception that Jameson Williams threw.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, it was a trick
ridiculous
play, and it didn't work out, but obviously what they tell the players there is to throw it away if it's not there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there. He decided to force it into triple coverage.
Well, that's exactly it. I think another thing about Jameson Williams is that he has a remarkably low football IQ. I just don't think he's a very smart player. He's very, very physically talented, but out of everything I've seen out of him, I just don't have faith that he really is an incredibly intelligent football player, you know? I mean, physical athleticism is great, and it's what has kind of built his niche. You know, he's a great football player. I just don't think he's a great football mind. You know, he doesn't have a lot of situational awareness. I mean, look at the abhorrent celebration that he had. Like that's just a dumb move. We'll say an explicit celebration that ended up getting the Lions pushed back, and stupid penalties like that are just. They're not necessary in the game. It's like, you know, if you do something like that, the refs are going to throw a flag, and he went and did it anyway. And it's not the kind of thing that a team really should be doing in a situation like that. I mean, this is a playoff game. Like, you got to be really serious. You got to not cost your team stupid things like that. Just, I mean, obviously there were a lot more problems with the Lions, but Jameson Williams, definitely one that got under my skin a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Also, the Lions defense played like tinfoil.
Yeah, tinfoil. And speaking of defenses that played like tinfoil, the Texans, who at the start of the game had an incredible front four performance. Their defense was making Mahomes run for his life. And there were even a few plays where I saw Mahomes do inexplicable things out of fear of being hit by this Texans front four. And it was like as soon as they went into the locker room, it was like in the first Space Jam movie when all the basketball players have their talent pulled out of them by the Monstars. It was like that Texans front four just couldn't get at Mahomes after halftime. I have no idea what changed in the Texans locker room, but it felt like their defense that was playing the Chiefs offense so hard and so tough in the beginning of the game just completely fell apart come the middle of the third quarter.
Well, I think it comes into play how many difference makers the Chiefs have on offense. Travis Kelce in particular had an amazing game.
Yes, he did.
Yesterday.
It was a great performance. It was vintage Travis Kelce. He broke away, almost scored a touchdown on a huge long play, and then of course that touchdown reception where Mahomes was falling forward, which again, just absurdity out of Mahomes. It's like a circus every time that man gets on the field. But the Chiefs offense did have another big stud guy that I think deserves a lot of credit, and that is Kareem Hunt. he did a great job establishing the run game. He had a big touchdown later in the game. He just was constantly pushing the team forward. You know, there were some plays where Mahomes in the passing game kind of stalled out, and Kareem Hunt's ability to be patient and wait for gaps and break tackles gave the Chiefs the ability to be a little more reckless with throwing the ball, you know, because they knew Kareem Hunt could get them into that. All they needed to do was get 2 or 3 yards in the passing game, and they knew that Kareem Hunt had the potential to get that 6 or 7 yards that you might need in a situation like that. So he was an unsung hero of the game. He's an unsung hero of the team. I think he has just been such a key piece to the offense, and it makes sense why we didn't see him late into the regular season. They were saving his body for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he came out and proved it today. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting for the rest of the playoffs, see how much the Chiefs use Kareem Hunt versus Pacheco in these situations.
Honestly, you can consider this a hot take. I mean, that's what we're here for. But I think Kareem Hunt is the best running back on the team right now. I love
Really?
Pacheco. I love the energy that he brings. But Pacheco's another guy that kind of suffers from a less than stellar football IQ. I think he doesn't have the patience necessary to play really great and be able to wear down a defense like Kareem Hunt does. I love what Pacheco does for the team. I love his niche. I love that he's a guy that can just put his shoulder down and run through a guy's face over and over and over again, and he's never going to get tired, and he's never going to get down on himself. But Kareem Hunt just has better running back play. And they're obviously both necessary for the team's success. I mean, Pacheco has been good this season, though he hasn't exactly taken the leap that I was hoping him to take as a Chiefs fan. But I saw a lot that I liked out of Kareem Hunt today, and I think if it comes down to keeping one of them, I say keep Kareem.
I think going back to the Texans, what really did them in was special teams play, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was huge.
Kaimi Fairbairn left a lot of points on the board.
Yeah, 7 points on the board for Kaimi Fairbairn. It was a bad game out of him. He did not look good.
Yeah, he looked pretty bad. Some questionable, I want to say, clock management decisions by D'Amico Ryans. The one play in particular that I thought was bad, he could use the timeout, was the play where it was 4th and 10, and they knew they had to go for it. They were down by multiple scores in the fourth quarter. And instead of calling a timeout, the Texans decided to play with 5 seconds left and ran it. It didn't go through. C.J. Stroud got sacked for an awful loss.
Yeah.
So
speaking of sacks,
it was that was a bad decision and did not help the Texans' case at all in that game. C.J. Stroud played good, though, for what he had to play with.
Yeah.
I don't really think any of the sacks were really his fault. The offensive line looked awful against the Chiefs defense.
I mean, Stroud tried his best, but man, that Texans offensive line must hate Stroud or something, because by the end of the game it just looked like they were letting the defenders just tee off on Stroud.
Yeah.
It got to the point where, you know, I know you're never supposed to show any mercy or flinch in the game of football, but I started to feel bad for him, man. I really did. The way he was limping off the field, because I like C.J. Stroud. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a really good football player, but just watching him just get obliterated every single play, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, 8 sacks. It comes with a serious toll, not only on the body, but also on the mind, man. You just get afraid to play the game the more times you get sacked, you know, because sacks hurt. I mean, this is anywhere between a 230 and 300-pound man just slamming his body into you and taking you to the ground. And it was obvious that those sacks really did have Stroud rattled late into the game while the Texans were trying to make a comeback. It's just unfortunate that the line really let C.J. Stroud down like that, you know?
And in the absence of Diggs and Dell, I would say he played pretty well against one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
So
I thought Nico Collins looked good too.
Yeah, and I don't think this loss is at all on C.J. Stroud. I think he played about as well as his situation let him play.
Yeah. I would say one of the really big pieces was the Texans' linebacker play. Their linebackers were basically non-issues throughout the entire game. They barely got any pressure on blitzes with the linebackers. The linebackers were pretty consistently getting manhandled by that Chiefs interior offensive line, which might have, you know, opened the door for that front four to get after Mahomes a little more. But Kareem Hunt just did a great job of bobbing and weaving between guys, just keeping the Chiefs really did do a good job of keeping linebackers out of the play. And linebackers are such an underrated part of any team's defense because They are the brains of the operation. You know, they kind of control the pass rush, they control the coverage sometimes. There's a lot that goes into a linebacker, and removing a linebacker from the game is an incredibly efficient way to win a football game and wear down a defense. They just, I think where the Chiefs needed to succeed on offense, they did. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't great, but you know, they got the job done, and they're going to have a tough game against whoever comes out of this AFC matchup coming up tonight.
Yep.
But that is going to do it for now. We are going on break, and when we get back, we are going to be talking about Eagles and Rams, and then we're going to be talking about Bills and Ravens. It's going to be a big one. Stay tuned, folks, right here for Jake's Hot Takes when we get back.
Thinking about remodeling your kitchen or bath? Wayne's Way Wholesale Cabinets has a great selection of all wood cabinets in the styles and colors to make your remodeling dreams come to life. Go to wayneswaycabinets.com for more info. Wayne's Way Cabinets, 1829 South Road, Wappingers Falls. Call 845-280-0880. Stop by and talk to Wayne today. You'll be glad you did. CDS Auto and Truck Repair is your 5-star one-stop shop for all your vehicle's needs from A to Z, offering full vehicle diagnostics. Towing is available, and they now offer fleet service. CDS Auto and Truck Repair. Call 845-563-9987. That's 845-563-9987. CDS Auto and Truck Repair, 2917 Route 9W, New Windsor.
Storage Bar Self-Storage is a temperature-controlled facility in New Windsor. Demands for storage tend to be driven by many life changes. Box, organize, save, simplify. Servicing business, organizations, military, and residential customers. Convenient, economical, and clean. Military, veteran, public safety, local business, and senior discounts offered. Call 845-562-BOOK or 845-562-2665 to reserve your unit today.
You've long known that Newburgh Auto Spa on Route 17K utilizes top caliber products and the latest technology to give your vehicle the proper maintenance it needs. Whether it be a computerized soft cloth car wash, detailing consisting of a comprehensive bumper-to-bumper cleaning of your entire interior and exterior, or a fuel-efficient oil change from a trained technician, Newburgh Auto Spa is the place to go. Now, Newburgh Auto Spa is a full-service automotive center. That's right, Newburgh Auto Spa now offers tires, brakes, rotors, tune-ups, alternators, and more, all with the same professionalism and quality you've become accustomed to. For a full list of automotive services offered in specials, go to NewburghAutospa.com. Whether you need a basic car wash, a quick oil change, or now more extensive automotive service, Newburgh Auto Spa is the place to go. Newburgh Auto Spa, quick, convenient, clean, located at 86 Route 17K and online at NewburghAutospa.com. Now offering a full range of automotive services. Newburgh Auto Spa, quick, convenient, clean.
Need a new oven? Then the place to go is Michael's Appliance Center. They are committed to providing excellent value and service. Whether you need a stove, washer and dryer, or refrigerator, they offer a multitude of products in every price range. Customers at Michael's Appliance Center receive exceptional guidance and support from their highly trained, knowledgeable sales staff. Shop for appliances ranging from dishwashers to outdoor grills. Visit Michael's Appliance Center, 585 Main Street in Middletown, or go online to michaelsappliance.com.
Wow. I am so excited, Matt. I got to tell you.
Yes.
I am so
For
excited. I was watching football yesterday thinking to myself, man, I love watching football. I wish I could do this all weekend.
Yeah.
And then boom. I looked
It
down at my
happened.
phone. I checked the schedule. We got another 2 games today. Another great divisional round matchup coming up between the Eagles and the Rams. This will decide who goes to face Washington in the NFC Championship. What do you think is going to be a big factor in this game?
Well, I think especially the Eagles' offensive line and Saquon Barkley versus that Rams defensive line is going to be huge in this game.
Yeah.
I think Barkley is going to go off. Last time they played the Rams in the regular season. I think it was Week 11 that they played. Saquon went off for 250 rushing yards.
Big
and
game out of him.
70, I think it was 70 receiving yards. So that's over 300 yards of offense. He ran across the field back and forth and back, and then some in that game, basically. So, yeah, I think Saquon Barkley's especially going. They didn't lean on him too heavily in the Packers game. He still got a lot of touches, but I think this is the game where Saquon's playoff resume really takes off.
See, I actually think quite the contrary. I think that Kyren Williams is actually going to outperform Saquon tonight.
No.
Because think about this, all right? Answer me this question.
Uh-huh.
Who is the biggest offensive threat on the Eagles?
Saquon Barkley.
It's Saquon Barkley, right?
Yeah.
Who is the biggest offensive threat on the Rams?
Puka Nacua.
It's Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
So as you game plan for a team like the Rams, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and that deadly passing game out of Matt Stafford is the number one priority on stopping. It's how the Rams score their points. It's how they get it done. Year in and year out, Matthew Stafford uses his passing ability to win games. The Rams don't really need to lean on the run game that much because Stafford is a really good passer and Nacua and Kupp are really good receivers, which means that the sets and the coverages that the Philadelphia defense is going to run is going to leave a little bit of wiggle room for a guy like Kyren Williams, who is great on efficient runs. He is great at getting, between 4 and 7 yards, which as a coach, that's all you can ask for out of your running back. I just think that the Rams defense is going to be making such a concerted effort to shut down Saquon Barkley, and the the Eagles defense is going to be making such a concerted effort to shut down the passing game that Kyren Williams is going to have an opportunity here to actually outperform Saquon. Do I think the Rams are going to win in spades and Saquon is going to be exposed as a fraud? Absolutely not. I just think that this is an opportunity for a younger guy to really make his spot known in the league. And because, people disrespect Kyren Williams. They really do. They do not respect him as a player right now. And I think this will be a great opportunity for him to shut down some doubters and statistically put up a better game than Saquon Barkley.
I don't think he'll put up a statistically a better game than Saquon Barkley because, while Saquon Barkley is still a threat, one of the biggest threats that the Eagles also have is Jalen Hurts' rushing ability, and they also have two good receivers in A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So, with the Eagles have a pretty complete team in that way. Really, the weakest link of the Eagles team is Jalen Hurts' passing ability.
Yeah.
But their defense is also very complete, so I have full confidence that they have the ability to shut down pretty much anything that the Rams can throw at them. No, I think Stafford will still have a good game, but I think the Eagles will come away with this.
Do you think it's gonna be close? Do you think it's gonna be competitive?
I think it could be competitive, but I think by the end of it, the Eagles will pull out of it. Saquon is just the difference maker in this game for me. The performance he had in Week 11 against this team really is what's selling me because it's not like they have different defensive players.
True.
Not like the Eagles have an injury or anything like that. Saquon's been healthy all year. I don't think there's any reason that Saquon can't have a similar performance in this game.
Yeah, another thing that I'll say is that Sean McVey is a very good head coach, obviously, and he's very good at being able to make adjustments for the team in terms of personnel, in terms of scheming, and in a lot of ways, Sean McDermott is a very adaptable head coach. And obviously the Rams are going to be coming into this game with a much different game plan than they had against the Eagles the first time. I wouldn't anticipate the Eagles being able to run all over the Rams like they did last time because it really wasn't necessarily that the Eagles are that much better and that much more dominant than the Rams defense. I think it was just a lot of bad scheming, and I think the Eagles took great advantage of a Rams team that wasn't exactly prepared for Saquon to go absolutely nuclear. But, the main thing that the Rams are going to be trying to prevent in this game is Saquon going absolutely nuclear. So I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon had a bit of a down game. I mean, he's been such a threat during the regular season. We know how good he is. One poor playoff performance is not going to really change the public image of Saquon that much. I mean, he's still a phenomenal player. I'm sure he'll have some great plays tonight. I just think that Kyren has an opportunity to be very efficient in the way that he plays and just kind of walk down that defense.
I think one of the biggest advantages that the Eagles have in this game, though, is their home field advantage.
Certainly.
With Detroit now out of the playoff picture, the NFC now runs through Philadelphia.
True.
So that building is going to be rocking.
Yeah.
Stafford and company are going to have to perform in probably the most hostile stadium in the entire league.
Yeah, those Philly fans are nasty, man.
Now that the NFC runs through Philadelphia, those guys are going to be unstoppable, and I think it's just going to be too much. It's going to be too big of a moment for this young of a Rams team. That this isn't the same Rams team at all that we saw win the Super Bowl last year.
Completely agree.
Cooper Kupp and Stafford are still there. McVey is still there. But there are so many defensive players that aren't ready to stand up to this challenge right here. So I think the Eagles will pull away with this one.
Well, I guess I'll just have to take your word for it and see tonight. Moving on, the big one. This is the big one. This is probably the biggest game we've seen in the playoffs
all
yet.
year.
Baltimore and Buffalo.
Yes.
In Buffalo, Orchard Park is going to be rocking tonight. Apparently, there's supposed to be a little snow. I guess we'll see how that shakes out.
I mean, that could be nice.
I mean, we're getting slammed
I like
by
snow playoff
here.
games.
Yeah. We're getting slammed by snow out here, and we're upstate New York. Here's what I think. This game is going to come down entirely to which team is better at containing the other team's quarterback. I think the only way that Buffalo wins this game is if they shut down Lamar Jackson, and I think the only way that Baltimore wins this game is if they shut down Josh Allen. Either that, or it's just going to be a crazy shootout. And I think that, I just don't think that Baltimore is going to be able to shut down Josh Allen. I mean, he is the MVP of the league this year. He's the best quarterback in the league. He is the MVP. He's the top dog, and he's proven year in and year out in the playoffs that he is able to put up these absurd numbers, and no matter how much teams try to game plan for him, there's really just nothing you can do against him.
See, the thing about that is that Josh Allen is not the MVP,
What?
and he is so much easier to shut down than Lamar Jackson in this game.
Are you kidding
Yes, because you're forgetting about Derrick Henry, because the Bills have to both find in their defense to shut down Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson's passing and rushing ability consecutively. If they focus on Derrick Henry, Lamar's going to eat. If they focus on Lamar, Derrick Henry's going to eat. Really, what do the Bills have besides Josh Allen that they have to focus their game plan around?
Whoa. No, you
James
are
Cook is
you are
good.
You are disrespecting James Cook right now.
James Cook is good.
James Cook is
But
one of the
Derrick
six best
Henry?
running. He is one of the
But
six best running backs
But is
in
he
the
Derrick
NFL
Henry?
right
That's
now.
not true.
I understand.
Is he Derrick Henry?
Is. No, he
That's
is.
not
James
true.
Cook is
He's
one of
not.
the. He
It's
is.
not.
He
That's
is.
not
He has
true.
been phenomenal this season.
He's been good.
He's revived his career.
He's been good.
He's been
He's
really
a rookie.
good this
How
season.
can he revive his career if he's not a rookie? This is his third year, but
He wasn't very good the last couple of years. That's what happened.
He was not that great the past couple of years, but he's been good.
I mean, this Bills rushing offense outside of Josh Allen has looked better now than it has ever in Josh Allen's entire time in Buffalo. Josh Allen is finally not the only guy that can go out there and rush. And man, James Cook, he's so good in the screen game. He's so shifty.
True.
He's so patient. Talking about Derrick Henry and James Cook like they're a high school player and an NFL player. I understand there's a big gap between them because Derrick Henry is the second best running back in the NFL right now, behind Saquon, I would say. But James Cook is not far enough behind Derrick Henry for him to be a non-factor in this game.
I'm not saying that James Cook is a bad player. That's just not true.
I think you're disrespecting him.
But there's a difference between the level of how teams game plan for James Cook versus how teams game plan for Derrick Henry and how that affects the offense.
That just makes him sneaky. That just makes the James Cook nuclear performance
Could
more
be.
sneaky.
I don't know.
Mark my words.
Maybe I'll shut up.
You know what? I'll get another hot take in here. I think James Cook is going to have a great game. I think James Cook is going to run all over this Ravens defense because, man, as soon as they try to stop him, Allen's going to go to the air. And when Allen goes to the air, and this I think is an undeniable fact, even though Lamar had the better passing stats across the season, I think Josh Allen is a far better passer than Lamar Jackson.
I agree. He's the better arm.
I think he's got better accuracy. I think he can hit guys in stride better. Actually, you know what? Maybe not. Lamar Jackson is really good at hitting guys
He's accurate.
in stride.
Lamar Jackson is very accurate.
But Josh Allen, man, he can just put some wind under that ball, and it's like it's on a rope. I watch him throw the ball, and I get angry at how accurate Josh Allen can be down the field. It's like, how do you even get the ball to a guy in that situation? Yeah. It's absurd. I think Allen is the MVP. I think he is the best player on the field for this Buffalo game, and I think he is going to be the reason that Buffalo ends up on top over Baltimore.
I mean, both of these quarterbacks are physical specimens.
Insane.
I mean, you watch them play, and you're like, how are they not the first overall pick in their drafts?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, they needed Daniel Jones more.
no, Daniel Jones was not picked over Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield was picked over Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They were in the same draft class.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's 2018.
I keep on, yeah.
Baker Mayfield. When
All
Josh Rosen was taken over Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold was taken over both.
Certainly they were. Well, aside from, bad draft decisions, when we get back, we're going to be asking the big question. Will we ever see a non-quarterback MVP in the league again? Find out what we think after this little break for Jake's Hot Takes.
You know us for 50 years, Fishkill Wine and Liquor. We've been in the CVS Plaza, and we've been your trusted family-owned and operated store. Fishkill Wine and Liquor has the largest selection at the very best price in the Hudson Valley. When you stop by Fishkill Wine and Liquor, ask about our wine tastings and the sampling of other spirits. Don't waste your time at the other liquor stores that simply don't have it. Stop by Fishkill Wine and Liquor, 986 Main Street, Fishkill, conveniently located in the CVS Plaza. Oh, and make sure you tell somebody.
This is Derek Wanku, president of Walden Savings Bank, and we're looking for our next community champion. Whether it's an individual volunteer or an entire organization, Walden Savings Bank wants to recognize those doing great things in our community with $1,000. To nominate a community champion, just go to energy103fm.com, click on the WSB logo. They could be our next community champion. Walden Savings Bank, your bank, our community, waldensavings.bank.
Hi, I'm Mark Guido. For close to 60 years, the Guido family has been honored to serve our community and the wonderful people in it. Our mission has always been to serve the highest quality food and drink with the friendliest service at affordable prices. We promise to never depart from this goal, and at the same time, we are striving to meet your needs and changing tastes. My dad, Frank, and I, along with the entire staff, thank you for your patronage, your loyalty, and especially your friendship. The Port of Call in Catskill is closed for the season, and we will reopen in the spring. Of course, Frank Guido's Little Italy in Kingston, the most popular Italian restaurant in the area, is still open 7 days a week. Our mission has always been to serve the highest quality food and drink with the friendliest service at affordable prices. We promise to never depart from this goal, and at the same time, we are striving to meet your needs and changing tastes. As we enter the new year, we wish all of you peace, joy, and good health. Buon anno.
Your engine is a delicate instrument. But if you don't change the oil on a regular basis, things have a tendency to go wrong. That's why this news should be music to your ears. Because now at the Newburgh Auto Spa, you can get a free car wash with every oil change. That's right, a free car wash with every oil change.
Really?
Really. Stop into their state-of-the-art facility today and find out what quality maintenance is all about. We all need to get oil changes, so why not get a free car wash to go along with it? And while you're at it, take advantage of their 15-point vehicle inspection free of charge. That should leave you on a very happy note. Newburgh Auto Spa, located at 86 Route 17K in Newburgh. For more information, call 845-567-0009, 845-567-0009, or go online to newburghautospa.com. That's newburghautospa.com. Newburgh Auto Spa. Quick, convenient, clean.
I just know all of our listeners get so excited when they hear that music as we're coming back from commercial.
I know I do.
Let's get right into it, all right? No messing around anymore.
Okay.
I know I was just messing around, but we're going to be asking the big question. Will we ever see a non-quarterback MVP in the league again? I mean, obviously there's a lot of discussion around the MVP between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, but I don't know. I feel like Saquon Barkley should have been in that conversation more than he was. I understand that Lamar and Allen both put up great seasons this year, like really great seasons, but Saquon Barkley just was really on the next level of running back. You know, it's like I feel like it was like he was the best running back in the league, and then there was a gap, and then it was Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was just so good, and it makes me sad that we're not seeing more non-quarterbacks in these MVP discussions.
I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I think last year when we really didn't have any great quarterback seasons last year, and they gave it to Lamar, and sure, Lamar deserved it, but we had Christian McCaffrey, who was going insane on the 49ers last year.
Yeah, he was going nuts.
If last year he didn't win it, I don't think it's ever going to happen again because we had such a weak quarterback year last year that really there was no standout quarterback that I was like, yeah, that person deserves it over Christian McCaffrey, and they still gave it to Lamar. So I think it just comes down to that the quarterback is the most important position on the field, and there's really no other position that you can say is more valuable than the quarterback. And especially if a quarterback is on a team that doesn't have a S-tier running back. There was a reason why Brock Purdy was even in the MVP conversation last year when he was clearly not even like the MVP of the team.
Yeah, don't get me started on Brock Purdy, man. He should not have been in that MVP conversation whatsoever last season.
He was the front runner for a couple weeks.
I could name probably 5 guys on that team that contribute more to winning than Brock Purdy does, but I'm not going to get into the Brock Purdy talk again. I'm not a huge fan of it. And I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think that if the league is going to have an MVP award, they need to be able to diversify. Because at that point, why don't we just call the MVP the best quarterback in the league award? Or maybe even have a separate award for quarterbacks to win and then save the MVP for, anyone. But, I mean, Offensive Player of the Year, it's just not enough. You know, a guy like Saquon is more than just the Offensive Player of the Year. He is one of the most crucial pieces on a team that was second in their conference and is probably going to be on their way to the NFC Championship game after tonight. Offensive Player of the Year just doesn't cut it. There was not a single player on that Eagles team that was as valuable as Saquon Barkley, offensive or defensive. I don't think there was anybody in that room, even including coaches, that were as important to the Eagles' success this season than Saquon Barkley.
I definitely think that like a really good running back deserves to be in the discussion more than they are. But this year, I don't think Saquon really warrants the nod over Jackson or Lamar, or Jackson or Josh Allen. I don't think. Obviously, he's an amazing running back. He had an amazing season, but it doesn't warrant the MVP over those two quarterbacks.
I can't disagree with that more. I think that when it comes to both of these guys, Allen and Lamar, we know they're great. Mm-hmm. We know what they can do. We know how valuable they are to the team. And Saquon is a guy who just got relocated. He's a new face in a new place, and he came out and immediately raised the ceiling of his teams, or of the team that he was on, you know? And not only that, he lowered the floor of the team he left. I mean, the Giants won a playoff game, but 2 years ago. And obviously they were bad this year and they were bad last year. But once Saquon left, it got really bad. So I just can't – the way that Saquon has the ability to raise the floor of one franchise and completely collapse another, that sounds really valuable to me as a player.
Yeah, but the situation with him leaving the Giants is such a deeper issue than just Saquon deciding to leave. It was an organizational failure, and the Eagles are just a better organization than the Giants right now. They have the offensive line for the Eagles is great. I just feel like while he is the most valuable player on the Eagles, it doesn't warrant that award over the two quarterbacks that are having stellar seasons right now.
Do you think Saquon's at least going to win Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, he's going to.
Over Jamar Chase?
100%. Well, actually, I didn't think about Jamar Chase.
Yeah, the Triple Crown,
the Triple Crown is pretty important.
It's hard to beat. It really is.
I don't know. But the Triple Crown in itself is already an achievement. I'm not sure. We'll see. I think Saquon, though, should win it.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that, even despite having a less than stellar offensive coach in Nick Sirianni, he still managed to perform really well. And speaking of coaches, Who's your coach of the year? Let's say it on 3, all right? 1, 2, 3. Kevin
Dan
O'Connell.
Campbell.
What?
It's Dan Campbell.
What?
Yes.
You really think it's Dan Campbell?
Yes, it is.
Why?
100%. Well, really what the Lions have Dan Campbell doing right now, he is excelling at, and he's the reason they're even successful right now. And while Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are great
I was going to say
coordinators,
man.
They're great coordinators, and they are one of the reasons why they're great. But this Lions team, even though they lost recently, they were so battered and injured by the end of the season. And Dan Campbell's ability to motivate the guys in the locker room, to keep guys keep guys going, keep guys wanting to play, wanting to be successful for the team, is way more beneficial for a team at the end of the day than something like Kevin O'Connell's ability to call plays without having that ability. It feels like in the LA game or the Lions game, the guys were giving up by the end of it. And I don't think that was ever true for this Lions team, even though they just lost to the Commanders. They got into a big offensive rut at the end of the year. The Vikings did, a big offensive rut, and O'Connell couldn't get them out of it. They had a great season, and he couldn't get them out of it. The failures for the Lions yesterday were so much more than decisions by Campbell. I don't really think there was any glaring decision by Campbell that made them lose that game.
I think you're way off base. I think that as great and as motivating as a guy like Campbell is, I think that just the pure ability to elevate the team's offense that Kevin O'Connell brings. I mean, think about where this Vikings team would be without Kevin O'Connell. People were talking about this Vikings team this year like they were a 6-win team. Kevin O'Connell comes in with Sam Darnold, of all people, and makes him look like a potential MVP candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the playoff game and the Week 18 game against the Lions proved 100% to me that Sam Darnold was never the quarterback that we thought that he was. And Kevin O'Connell was a big part of that. He makes schemes to allow his big stars to get open and make plays. And as much as I love Dan Campbell and what he does for the Lions, he does not have as big of an impact on the offense or the defense, really. I mean, being a motivator is great, but ultimately it's not going to win you football games. You take away Dan Campbell's offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator and replace him with guys that are just average, and this Lions team is not going as far as this Vikings team that if they had the same situation. If Brian Flores and Wes Phillips were replaced by just perfectly average offensive and defensive coordinators, Kevin O'Connell would still be able to elevate the team even further. I would say Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn have been so paramount, and Dan Campbell has been very important too, but not as important enough to warrant the Coach of the Year award.
But what you have to think about is what the category qualifies for Coach of the Year is. I mean, this before Dan Campbell came into the Lions organization, the team had probably the worst culture in all of sports history. They hadn't won anything in ages, and he turned it around. He turned the attitude of the team around. And you see it in the guys after the games in the locker rooms when they win. He gives a speech every single time, and players love playing for him. So the culture is something that a team really needs to be successful. And the fact that the Lions have seen success in the last 2 years is because of their culture. And it's such an important part of the Coach of the Year award that isn't talked about enough.
I just think that the Lions really did have Campbell was very important, but the Lions also have had great drafts these last couple years that have bolstered their roster in such a massive way.
True.
I mean, the Lions roster these last couple years, even just on paper, has been insanely good. If anything, it feels like it's a given to have success with a team that is this talented on this many fronts. I mean, they have the best running back duo in the league in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They have a borderline top 5, I'll say top 5 wide receiver in the league in Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that defense was real battered, they still have some serious
studs out there.
They do have some
players
out there.
And their offensive line is the best in the league.
Yeah, Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow, man, they are just so tough. And you think about it and think about like all the really great players that the Vikings have. Justin Jefferson, 100%. I would say Jordan Addison is a really great wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and they don't really have any insanely talented guys that are like top 5 or top 3 at their position, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I see so much. I see O'Connell's ability to bring so much more out of an offense as opposed to Campbell's, who while he does get guys fired up, and I'm sure that his influence is a major reason for success for the Lions, I just don't think that it's Coach of the Year worthy.
That is fair, and I wouldn't be mad if O'Connell got it, because O'Connell's supporting cast is definitely a lot worse than Dan Campbell's, and maybe if you switch the teams, the stories would be way different right now. But I think for just looking at the sample size that we have, the games that were played this year, the games that were won, the coach's effect on the team, Dan Campbell is way stronger of a candidate than Kevin O'Connell.
Well, here's what I'll say. I think that when having a discussion, it's very important to find some middle ground. So here's what I'll say on that front. Nick Sirianni is a bad coach. Can we agree on that?
He's not untouchable. I don't think he's a bad coach. He brought a team to a Super Bowl, and the team is going to have success this year.
Man, I was trying to find a little common ground.
I don't think he's a bad. I was
trying to find a little common ground here, man. I
don't think he's an awful coach.
I can't stand Nick
Sirianni. Well, yeah, he's not a pleasant man, but I don't think he's a bad football coach.
He looks like he smells bad. But all right, I thought I was going to find some common ground, but instead I'm actually going to ramp up this argument. Campbell just doesn't do enough for the team practically. He doesn't do enough on the field. Like, he's a great locker room guy, but this is Coach of the Year we're talking about, man. And you know, any Joe Schmo with a really intense attitude can come in and get a team of football players fired up. I mean, they should be getting fired up. They're football players. This is the most intense sports atmosphere in the world, and they're playing one of the most physically intensive sports. Like, I just don't see it.
Money and hassles. Dolson Avenue, Middletown, Route 211, Middletown, Broadway, and Monticello, and online at TireDiscountCenter.com. Tire Discount Center.
Thinking about remodeling your kitchen or bath? Wayne's Way Wholesale Cabinets has a great selection of all wood cabinets in the styles and colors to make your remodeling dreams come to life. Go to WaynesWayCabinets.com for more info.
Hello? Okay. We are back. All right, Matt. So the next thing we're going to be talking about right now is there's a few teams that I want to highlight, because this is a kind of an educational segment for more casual fans of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people ask, how do teams like the Chiefs and the Lions and to a lesser extent the Rams, how do they have such continued success throughout so many years and with the ability to lose so many players? You see it every year. A lot of really talented players on the Chiefs and the Lions and the Rams leave. The Rams just lost what might be one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game in Aaron Donald, and they are on their way to a divisional round appearance now. And it makes a lot of fans ask, what's the deal? How do they continue to be so successful? And my answer to that is, without a doubt, drafting in the late round.
Yes.
Drafting in the late round is so important for a team's continued success that I feel the need to talk about it, because it's a really important aspect of the game that doesn't get highlighted enough. I mean, the Titans just hired Chiefs Assistant General Manager Mike Borgonzi. I think it was a phenomenal pickup because Mike Borgonzi is great at drafting in the late rounds.
Yeah.
You look at the Chiefs draft picks in the last couple of years, or I'll even go back even further than that. The Chiefs have gotten some of their most successful players in franchise history outside of the first two rounds. Travis Kelce was a third-round pick. Tyreek Hill was a fifth-round pick. And then L'Jarius Sneed was a fourth-round pick. He was tantamount to the Chiefs' defensive success the last couple of years that he was on the team. And you look even further, and there's a lot of guys that just fill out the roster. Joshua Williams was a fourth-round pick, one of our defensive backs. Jalen Watson was a seventh-round pick. And it frees up the team to do so many things because they don't have to worry about holding on to free agents and holding on to guys that are going to want huge checks. They can just let them walk, and with the knowledge that they'll be able to find somebody in that draft later on in the year.
Yeah, and I think the important thing about drafting in the late round is that it is cheap. It is the cheapest way to sustain success and to build your franchise. I mean, free agency is, you're going to get good players. You're going to get good players that have proved themselves on other teams, but they're expensive. And it's not free agency isn't really a good way to build the team because in reality you're paying big bucks for players that other teams didn't want.
Yeah, exactly.
So while free agency is a very good way to build your team, and if you want a star player, it's like free agency is like if you need a gap, if you have a gap you need to fill, and there's a home run pick there, like Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
That's a great free agency signing.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
free agency, you can't just sustain your team by constantly signing other teams' leftovers.
Exactly.
In a way, so you have to grow your own talent from home. And a prime example of this, I want to draw attention to, is the Cincinnati Bengals, and that since their 2021 Super Bowl run, they have pretty much only hit 2 draft picks.
Right.
At all, and their drafting has been pretty abysmal. I mean, they've pretty much only hit 2 picks, which is Chase Brown in round 5. That was a good find.
Great pick.
And then Cam Taylor-Britt in the second round. Pretty much and DJ Reader in the second round a couple years ago. Those are the 3 picks that I would say that have made a good impact on their team. Other than that, it's really been low impact besides the picks of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins from years ago.
And those picks are very easy to make as a general manager. You have the first overall pick. I mean, just look at Joe Burrow. How could you not take him first overall?
Very true.
And then it made sense to pick Jamar Chase at the time. I mean, it wasn't even really a question. It's
great pick.
Our young quarterback is looking really good. Let's get his college teammate, who also looks really good, to build that immediate on-field chemistry. And obviously it turned out very well, but even looking further, the Bengals have lost so many pieces in free agency from that Super Bowl team that they just can't make up for.
Yeah,
I mean, their secondary is shredded.
And they're broke. Is really
they're flat.
They're broke. They
got no money.
They can't sign more free agents.
Yeah.
Because their drafting has been pretty abysmal in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Bengals are a bad team because of it. They still have a lot of talent, but in order to consistently draw success to your team, you have to be consistently drafting. And it's the fastest way to rebuild your team. I think about the Rams. And a couple years ago, the Rams were awful. It was the year after the Super Bowl run. They looked terrible.
Yeah.
They quoted and said, screw them picks, is what they said about the draft picks, because they traded so many draft picks to get Stafford. They traded for Odell Beckham Jr. They traded people. They sold their souls basically for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
traded for Jalen Ramsey.
They had no. Yeah, they traded for Jalen. They had no picks for a long time, and their general manager Les Snead has had great success since that time.
Absolutely.
I mean, even someone like Cooper Kupp years ago was a round 3 pick.
Yeah.
It's a huge find. And the biggest one is obviously Puka Nacua. They found him in the 5th round. He's one of the best receivers in the league. And when you watch him play, you're like, how is he not a high pick? Like, he's huge.
Yeah.
He can run routes. He's huge. It's crazy. He's big enough to be a tight end. But also big defensive player Byron Young found in the 3rd round. Kyron Williams found in the 5th round.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of the really essential pieces that this team found were products of later rounds in the draft. And that's exactly it. Like I said earlier with the Cincinnati Bengals, it is very easy to make the right pick early in the draft. It's when you get outside of those first 2 rounds that things really start getting dicey, because it's not even something that a general manager would be criticized for. You know, you make a 3rd round pick and the guy's a bust, and it's like, oh, well, you know, you only spent a 3rd round pick on him, you know, or even later into the rounds, he's a 6th or a 7th round pick. Oh, well, he was a 7th round pick. What do you expect? But I think that late round drafting is almost more important than early round drafting, because, yeah, you have an opportunity to get some of the most physically talented players off the board. But, I mean, these are guys that not only have a chip on their shoulder by being a late round draft pick, you know, they have the tenacity to be there and want to prove themselves. And, I mean, take a look at, I'll take an example. Do you remember John Ross, that Cincinnati Bengals pick a couple years ago? Versus Puka Nacua, who John Ross just didn't – it was like he didn't even want to play football. He just had so many issues with on-field effort and training and things like that. That is almost never – you're never going to find an issue like that with a 7th-round pick. They know that this is their one opportunity to make it in the league, and they are going to give everything they got to make sure that their presence is felt and that the team understands that they are a valuable asset. So being able to find those guys that have that kind of tenacity, look at the Chiefs and Pacheco. I mean, Pacheco worked so hard to earn that spot on the starting roster, and it's because he felt not necessarily that he felt disrespected, but he knew that he was not going to get the same kind of looks that like a first-round running back would get. So I just think it's very important to be able to sniff out those guys that have that tenacity, because sometimes they can be the most important players on the field, you know?
Yep.
Pacheco is a huge momentum.
100%.
He's a huge momentum shifter for the Chiefs. When he gets going, the whole team gets going. And that kind of impact coming from a 7th-round player is why a team like Kansas City has been able to sustain their success for so long.
And I think something that have to look at is a lot of all-time great players are late-round draft picks.
Yeah, totally.
Tom Brady, the number 199th
the big one.
pick. Yeah, he was a 6th-round pick, Tom Brady. That's a crazy thought.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that every time there's a really big anomaly, there's a player that's really good in a late round, the drafts do adjust to their plans. It shifts what teams are looking for. So it definitely, the draft is always changing. What players teams are looking for is always changing. But a lot of receivers are late round. A lot of all-time great receivers late round picks. Antonio Brown was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs was a 5th-round pick.
Yep.
I think he was either 5th or 6th. But it's just a lot of teams find really good players in those rounds, so it's very important.
Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick.
3rd-round pick,
yeah.
Right.
There's so much talent to be found, and I think that a team like Tennessee, and I'm going to pivot a little bit to the rebuild that Tennessee is having right now, because I actually think that Tennessee is 2 or 3 years away from actually contending for a Super Bowl right now.
Really?
I think they are in a phenomenal position, and if they make the right choices, which I think hiring Borgonzi as their new general manager was a phenomenal move on their part. I saw a report that they were looking into him as a general manager, and I thought to myself, oh man, I didn't want to lose Borgonzi, but I just think that Tennessee is in a prime position right now to have some really great drafts with a guy who knows what to look for. I mean, Brett Veach is a wizard when it comes to finding those late-round guys, and Borgonzi worked directly under him. He knows what to look for when it comes to those guys. He knows the Veach mentality when it comes to drafting, and it's worked out so many years. And if Tennessee is able to put together a solid core without the need for big-budget free agents or huge contracts from their guys, then that opens up the door to keep around a lot of the guys that have been doing good work, like Jeffrey Simmons, man. Jeffrey Simmons could finally get some of the recognition that he deserves by allowing them to get a big contract around him. But it's just interesting. I do think that the Titans are not all that far off, especially since they are going to be picking either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders first overall, who I think both of those guys have what it takes to be successful in the NFL. I have a little more faith in Ward than I do in Shedeur, but Shedeur is going to come with a lot of the things that we talked about last week when it comes to publicity and when it comes to eyes on the team and selling tickets and selling jerseys and getting sponsorship opportunities. And a lot of that, it's little, but it goes a long way in building a sustainable team.
Very true.
The Tennessee Titans, another thing that I notice is that they don't seem to really have a grasp on who they're going to take first overall. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of confidence one way or the other when it comes to Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And I just want to know your take. Who do you think should go first overall?
Cam Ward. They need a quarterback. That's where this rebuild should start. It's not assuming that they win more games next year. It's going to be probably a while until they're in this good of a position again. I don't think they should trade it. Their team just is pretty talentless.
Yeah.
To put it blankly right now.
Around the board, pretty much.
So we'll see how they can do in this draft, and that will really determine the speed of the rebuild.
For certain. And then last thing I want to ask about, do you think that Cam Ward's behavioral issues are going to come into a problem for Tennessee?
No, I think he'll clean it up.
All right,
Yeah.
Well, that is going to do it for this Sunday's edition of Jake's Hot Takes. I hope that you got lots of great football knowledge that you can use to school your coworkers at the water cooler. Tune in next Thursday at noon for our next episode right here on WGNY 1220 94.5. I have been Jake McVey, joined by Matthew Galgano, and we thank you for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
WGNY and WJGK HD2, Newburgh, Middletown. WGNY News, Talk, Sports.